Okay, so we were coming over here to this plaza and I just noticed this restaurant across the street called Something's Fishy, and it reminded me of this really stupid story that I'm gonna share with you right now. Okay, so my best friend Eddie is at my house. We're skateboarding like we did every other day, and his dad comes to pick him up and he says to me, hey Kurt, can you call this restaurant and place an order for us? We wanna pick it up on our way home. And I'm like, okay. I was like 11 or 12 and I didn't really know how to do that, but he tells me the name of the restaurant and it was this restaurant right over here, Something's Fishy. And so they leave, I go inside and I call 411. And for those of you that don't remember, that's what we did back in the day. You would call 411 and that was information. You would tell them the city and the name of the business and then they would connect you. So I call 411, I tell her Woodland Hills and I tell her the name of the restaurant, and she says, no, there's no business by that name. We try a few different things and she's like, I'm sorry, there's no business by that name. So I wasn't able to place the food order for him. And of course, this was before cell phones, so I wasn't even able to call my friend and tell him that I wasn't able to place the order. So about, I don't know, 45 minutes, an hour later, my friend Eddie calls me when they get home and he's like, hey man, you know, what's the deal? You didn't place the order for us. We got there and there was no order. And I'm like, yeah, I couldn't get the number. I called 411 and they said that there was no restaurant called Something Smelly. And he stops and he's like, what? And I'm like, yeah, there's no restaurant called Something Smelly. And he just starts laughing and his dad's like, you know, what's the problem? And he tells his dad, he was trying to find a restaurant called Something Smelly. And yeah, so I felt really stupid. I don't know, something in my brain converted Something's Fishy to Something Smelly, and that's why I couldn't find the restaurant. Okay, let's go. Now, my whole time living here in the Valley, this was a Kentucky Fried Chicken, and it was really interesting to see it turn into a Louisiana Fried Chicken because I think this is the only one of these in the Valley. I know some of you have asked me to talk about donut shops in the Valley, and that's something that I can talk about because we used to go to a lot of donut shops, but it wasn't just one or two. We went to any and all donut shops, and so I'll point out some of them right now. Now, this is at the corner of Burbank and Balboa, and this used to be a donut shop. I can't remember. I want to say it was either like a Donut Inn or a Yum Yum Donuts, but what I remember about this donut shop is my dad used to stop here a lot, especially on his way to work, and whenever I would stop here with him on the weekend, we would pull up and we would park right there in front, and by the time we would get inside, the guy would have a cup of coffee sitting there on the counter waiting for my dad because he knew whenever my dad came here on weekday mornings, he would get a cup of coffee, so he would always have a large cup of coffee waiting there on the counter. And I thought that was so amazing. When I came here, I asked my dad, how did he know you wanted a cup of coffee? And my dad just gave me, you know, a little grin. And I still think that's really cool. Like, you don't find customer service like that anymore. And I think that's something that a lot of places are lacking. After that donut shop closed, this became a donut and fried chicken place. And then now it looks like it's just currently an empty building. This Winchell's is on Reseda Boulevard, just north of Ventura Boulevard. And I think out of all of the Winchell's donuts that I used to go to with my dad, this might be one of the only ones that's still in business. It's really good to see that this liquor store is still here. C&C Liquor. This is a liquor store that we used to come to a lot. And you know, I just realized that in a lot of my videos, I talk about all the liquor stores that we used to go to. I'm always saying we used to go to this liquor store and that liquor store. And I think I'm making my dad sound like an alcoholic. He wasn't an alcoholic, but I think probably like a lot of dads out there, he did drink a lot of beer, at least when I was younger. By the time I was a teenager, he quit drinking completely. But when I was younger, he pretty much only drank beer. And on top of that, my mom was a chain smoker and my dad liked to play the lotteries. And I never really thought about it, but I guess my dad was also a firm believer in everybody always having a beverage. And it's not like we were going far, we were just running errands here in the Valley, but he would always stop so that I could go in and get a Yoo-Hoo or a Snapple or a New York Seltzer. And that definitely didn't carry over because when we're out running errands and my son complains that he's thirsty, my answer is always, well, you should have thought about that before we left the house. You should have brought a water. Now, this is Loman's Plaza at Victory in Tampa, and I've shown this before, and I've also talked about this Fab hot dogs because this used to be QT hot dogs and I worked there for a while. but I recently remembered, I believe either where Fab Hot Dogs is or where Pizza Hut is, at some point there was a Winchell's Donuts here. And the reason why I remember that is I used to live right across the street, and I remember coming here with my dad on New Year's Day and getting a dozen donuts to celebrate the new year. I don't know why that was any different than any other day, because we got donuts like every weekend. But anyways, I'm pretty sure there used to be a Winchell's Donuts right here. Can anybody help confirm that? As you come down Reseda Boulevard, approaching Burbank, you see this sign for Tasty's Donuts, but it's actually right around the corner on Burbank. And this is another donut shop that's been here for as long as I can remember, and I know I've stopped there at least a few times. So I know I've shown you this bridge before that's decorated with the Peanuts characters, but it's just recently come to my attention that somebody has spray painted a mask on Charlie Brown. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, that is supposed to be the mask of rapper MF Doom, who passed away not too long ago. So I'm assuming this is supposed to be a tribute to MF Doom, but I gotta tell you, I'm not down with this. You know, I'm all about tributes, but I'm never in support of vandalizing somebody else's artwork. And like I said in my other video that I did about this bridge, these were actually gifted to the school by Charles Schultz. So, you know, these are a pretty big deal, and it's really sad to see something that's been here for so many years for people to enjoy, and now it's been vandalized. But that's just my opinion. And then I just noticed that they actually did it on both sides of the bridge. I'm so bummed out. I know I've shown you this McDonald's before. This is on Sherman Way between Wilbur and Reseda. And I talked about how this is one of there's a lot of McDonald's that we used to go to, but this was one that we went to a lot. There were two McDonald's that were our main McDonald's, and this was one of them. And what I liked about this one is this was one of the only McDonald's left around that still had the old look. It still had that look from, you know, the 80s and 90s. And if you can see right here, it's now gated off. It says closed for remodeling. See our new look coming soon. And you know, it's already gone through some changes over the years, because right out here, what's now the outdoor eating area, that used to be the playground. I remember originally that was, you know, the classic McDonald's playground that had the, you know, that had the Big Mac that you could crawl inside of, the Big Mac jail, and it had the slide with the pirate and all that stuff. And then it later became the I don't know what it's called, but the Play Palace with all the tubes that you crawl through, and it's got the ball pit. And now it doesn't have a playground at all, and pretty soon it's going to be a modern looking McDonald's. So, man, what a bummer. And as you can probably hear, construction's already underway. They're doing stuff back by where the drive-through menu is. And man, just looking at this is bringing back so many memories, because like I said, you know, not only would I come play in this playground, but also when my dad was ordering, I would always be skateboarding out here. Skateboarding all alongside this drive-through, and then back there in the parking lot. And I just noticed on the sign, the store closed on July 11th, and I'm filming this, today is July 18th, so just closed a few days ago. A lot of skateboarding over on this side of the building too, probably more so on this side, skating on this curb and just in general in this parking lot. And you can't see it anymore because there's a fence, but there's a bunch of curbs back here that I used to skate on. So yeah, a lot of skateboarding memories here. And I actually just remembered something while standing here. I remembered the last time that this McDonald's was under construction. Well, I don't know if it was the last time it was under construction, but this goes back to the late 80s, and they were doing some work on this McDonald's. I think they were doing work on the roof, and there were some prefabricated like little A-frames that were made out of 2x4s, and there were some that were off to the side that looked like maybe they were going to get thrown away. And I don't know if I should be saying this, but I wasn't the one who took them. My dad was. My dad took a couple of these A-frames, and he made me a launch ramp out of it. And I had that launch ramp for years, and it was my favorite launch ramp, and it was made out of material from this McDonald's roof. So I guess there's a lot of connection with this McDonald's and my skateboarding. And of course, the famous donut shop here in Reseda, Miss Donuts. Everybody knows this shop from the movie Boogie Nights. And the strange thing is, all the years that I lived here in Reseda, and for many years I lived just a couple of blocks that way and frequented this plaza a lot, but I don't think I've ever been to Miss Donuts. Not really sure why, but I don't have any memories of coming to this donut shop. But I was here just recently when I was doing the filming locations for Boogie Nights, and I gotta say, I was kind of surprised how nice it is in there. And they don't just have like the normal donut shop donuts. They have some really good looking pastries along with the donuts that you would find at a regular donut shop, but they had some other really good looking pastries. So if you're in the area, I definitely recommend stopping by Miss Donuts. Used to go to this Donut Plus at Roscoe and Tampa. It's recently been remodeled though. This is on Van Noen Street and Etiwanda, and it's now called Wow Beauty Supply. But when I lived here, this was Hollywood Video, and I was gonna say that this was my last video store experience. Like when my wife and I were dating, we came to this Hollywood Video at least a few times a week, and we would spend some time walking around and looking at, might have been, I think it was DVDs by that time, might have still been VHS. I was pretty late at getting a DVD player, so I'm not sure which it was at that time. But yeah, we spent a lot of time walking around here, and it's actually the last memory I have of going to a video store. But then just recently we found our old Hollywood video card and Blockbuster video card from when we lived in Monterey Park, which was much later than this. That would have been in the mid 2000s. So I guess this wasn't our last video store experience, but I thought it was. And in the same shopping center with that Hollywood Video, actually directly across from it, it's now a Didi's Discounts, and I have a completely different memory of what this used to be. For some reason, I remembered this at one point being a builder's emporium, but I guess my memory was completely tricking me because my wife reminded me that this used to be a Big Lots, and I'm gonna assume before that it was a Pick and Save because almost all Big Lots were Pick and Saves. So I don't know what store I'm thinking of that I remember being a builder's emporium. But that's now got me thinking about Builder's Emporium, and I think I should maybe just do like a whole video on Builder's Emporium. And then again, in the same shopping center, right over there was the Hollywood Video, and then over there was the Big Lots. This Popeye's chicken was here, and it's the only Popeye's chicken that I ever remember coming to. I remember really liking it. And then just a couple doors down, this place, Star Donuts. I also remember this place being here for as long as I can remember, but again, I don't really have any memory of coming to this donut shop. I just remember it always being here. At Roscoe and Laurel Canyon, I'm sure you can tell what this little ice cream shop used to be. Just another Winchell's that I used to go to with my dad back in the 80s. I remember driving by this Buddhist temple at Coldwater and Roscoe all the time as a kid because I lived right by here. Now, I'm sure you're all dying to know, what were my favorite donuts? What did I get? And the answer to that question is all of them. I love all donuts, and I used to get all different kinds, but I think probably my favorite kind of donuts were French crullers, still are, jelly donuts, apple fritters, and chocolate devil's food donuts with sprinkles. Those are all still my favorite. DeSoto and Lassen, Foster's Donuts. I remember stopping here with my mom on a weekday morning on the way to my grandparents' house in Chatsworth, and we were inside getting donuts, and for some reason I started feeling ill, and I came outside and I got sick right in front of Foster's Donuts. Not something that I'm proud of, but it happened. But not to worry, because it was the 80s, so my mom just gave me a couple of donuts to make me feel better, and everything was fine. All right, well, that's gonna do it for this video. It's time for me to head out of the hot San Fernando Valley. As always, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.